All right, we're going to change the subject to one that is, well, it's really concerning to a lot of people now, and that is what has happened in this country to our freedoms. And joining us today is Ralph Winterrowd from Alaska, who has been studying the law for many, many years, probably at least 20 years on his own, trying to figure out how we got to where we are and how to release ourselves from this bondage. And I got to say that if, just like, it's been repeated in the past about people who said I was born for this time, if there was ever anyone that was born for this time, it's Ralph Winterrowd. And I only wish there were 1,000 Ralph Winterrowds out there that he could clone himself, because he knows what's happening and he's very disturbed about it, and we're going to find out what to do about it today. Ralph, thank you so very much for joining us in the Power Hour today.
Well, thanks for having me on, Joyce, and I also appreciate what you've been doing in the past.
Well, thank you. We got a little bit of a... John, is there anything we can do to tweak this connection here with him?
I will fix that.
Okay. Yeah, we got a kind of a rough connection here.
Okay, that should have fixed it.
Oh, that's better. That's better. Yeah, but we got a whooshing sound. I don't know where that's coming from, but we've got a whooshing sound. Maybe that's a wind in Alaska. I don't know. Yeah, we got... John, can we fix that, or... Are you there, Ralph?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, we'll go on as see if we can rectify whatever that is. Anyway, well, thank you. And if it weren't for you, and I got to go back to that day in Alaska when we approached, or when you contacted us here in the United States and said, I'd like to do something to help the vets, and I want to invite you to Alaska. And you said that, and you said, I will pay for you to come up to Alaska and speak to the vets about their illness. And I'll never forget that, because that gave us a chance to actually get our message out there with the Gulf War Illness Fact or Fiction, which, of course, by the way, got me a phone call from the Department of Defense asking me to never give it away to another veteran again. So that prompted me to even make more copies of it, of course. But and I did, and it's out there. I mean, it's really gotten out there, but it's all thanks to you, because you underwrote that for the very first time. But you are in a situation today where you realize that the demise of this country may be looking at us in the face. Am I correct?
Yes, there has been a complete coup d'etat.
Yes.
There is no constitutional republic. It's gone.
It is, and I guess we just better admit it, face up to it, and realize it, and not hold out any hope that, oh, gee, they're going to go by the laws, because they're not.
No, they're not. Yeah. The only hope we have left is Ron Paul.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
And if we don't get in gear and get him elected, we basically can put this country down the tube.
Well, today on CNN, they announced that Ron Paul has 58% support in Iowa, which is huge, unbelievably huge. We've got to redouble our efforts, because Ron Paul is an answer. He will take this country back to what it was supposed to be in the first place, and none of the other candidates are going to do that. So we've got to do whatever we can for Ron Paul. But let's talk about how we got into this mess in the first place. How did we get to where we have lost control, or to where they have taken control of us?
Well, it started back actually out of the Civil War, but they started these agencies, and I'll tell you what, I've got an echo here. Let me call you right back, and we'll make a better connection here.
Okay. All right. We're going to try to get a better connection, because it's really, I don't know, John, if you can call him on the phone or not, so we can get a better connection here. What I want you to do is get the email blast, because Ralph has already given me and sent the pages for reference, the documentation, and what we're talking about. So you can get it in the email blast today. Really excellent material. And I got to say, he has been studying this stuff so much, as a person who is not an attorney, but is in there studying this material, and he is going to bring to us how we got into this mess in the first place. And I think we need to do that to understand where we are today. I mean, just simply to say that we've lost the Constitution, that's not all what happened. We've got to find out what else happened to get us to lose the Constitution. How did they work all this together? You know, that's the question that people always have, is how did they do this? How did they manipulate us into this position? And Ralph Winterrowd is the person that can certainly tell us about that. So I really have got to tell you that if it were not for this man who funded the Gulf War Illness Fact or Fiction video, we would have never had it. We had no money at that time, and he was the one that got us started, and he was the one that got the message out, because he realized then how serious a situation it was, that if you're killing your military, then it's going to be the people next. And he knew that. He absolutely knew that more than anyone. So hopefully we can get him back on the line, and we can discuss all this information that he has put into documentation, because his website, by the way, JustBelli, JustBelli.com, JustBelli.com, JustBelli.com. And I think it'll really give you an idea about who Ralph is and what his interest is. Because I'll tell you what, this man has made a target of himself. He has really put himself out there. In fact, he is fighting off lawsuits all the time of people attacking him. And, of course, he does it on his own, which I don't know if he would recommend that for the rest of the people or not, but it's pretty scary what they have done to him. I mean, if we were to go into all of the cases that they have thrown against him, or all the issues they've thrown against him, I think you'd be shocked that one man has fought off all these people. How are we doing, John, on getting him back on? Do we have a connection yet? Okay, we're getting him through now. Okay, great. Fantastic. Ralph, do we have you back there again?
We do, and I don't have an echo, and we have a real good connection.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Okay, let's go back to, you said the Civil War is where we can sort of go back and find the beginnings of all of this. Was there some kind of goal to try and assert the influence away from the people during that time?
There was a complete overthrow, and what they did is, in 1866, they created a fiction in law called the Citizen of the United States. And that's someone that wants the same rights as a white citizen. It's today in the code in 42 U.S.C. 1981 and 1982. They memorialized it in the 14th Amendment so that we couldn't get it away. And then in 1875, they changed 5 words out of the act for our country. I'm taking out lost a word here, but they changed 5 words. And then what they started is what are called agencies. And nobody, you see this all the time in the paper. You see regulations. Congress passes all types of stuff to have these agencies start. The Interstate Commerce Commission was the first one that started back officially in the 1800s. By World War I, these things were really growing, and by the time Franklin Delano Roosevelt came along with his New Deal, these agencies were taking over the government. And in 1937, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he had prior to that a research document done to understand how to control agencies and their regulations. And they came out with a 400-page book, which Franklin Delano Roosevelt endorsed. And what they called them was the headless fourth branch of government. And Senator McLaren in the Congressional Record went at great length explaining this. And in this book, the government's written and endorsed by FDR, a headless fourth branch.
Now, what is the headless fourth branch refer to?
We have 3 branches in our constitutional republic. We have the Congress that's supposed to make the laws. We have the executive that's supposed to execute them. And then we have the judicial that's supposed to get around and adjudicate and enforce them. And all of these are governed by our federal constitutions and the constitutions of these several states. These things are called, and I sent you over a clip of Alan Greenspan. These things are called independent little governments, but they're called independent establishments. They sit outside of our constitutional republic, as though you could put them, say they're sitting in Iran or England or some places in Europe. And there's only 2 things that control these things. they're immune to the Constitution. They're immune to the law because they don't live in our three branches of government. There's a fourth one, and the reason why they're called headless, because just like what we're going to talk about here in a little bit in the terrorism bill, Congress and the President appoint a chairman and a vice chair, and then the President is going to appoint three of his lackeys, and then they pass regulations. And these regulations, they're not governed by the Constitution. They're only governed by two things: the Federal Register Act, where they are published so we have notice, and by the Administrative Procedures Act. So if you can think of it, they're external to our continent, to our world. I put them in the land of Oz.
Okay, we got to go to this 4-minute break, and we're going to try to get a better connection with Ralph. It's really, I understand it's really hard, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. We're going to try to work on that during the break. We got a 4-minute break. We'll be back with Ralph Winterrowd, JusBelli.com, JusBelli.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. We are talking this hour to Ralph Winterrowd, and I am telling you, this man has the answer, and they don't like it either. He has been attacked so much in the past, and we are so sorry for what he has had to go through. I mean, it's cost him everything, his family and everything, but he is still strong. He stands, and then he stands. Now we've got a better connection, hopefully. Let's go back to how this all started, because we're looking now at a police state without a doubt. Even Ron Paul, I think, has admitted that. So how did this happen? Where did it come from, and how did they control us?
Well, like I say, it started initially at the Civil War when they went under the War Powers Act, and what they started doing is they created a fiction in law called a Citizen of the United States. And everybody, it sounds so deliciously good, but everybody signs up for it. But it's somebody that wants the same rights as a white citizen, the same rights to sue and be sued and all that. And you can look on the Internet. Just look at 42 United States Code, 1981 and 1982. It's right there. It's still in the code. So the problem becomes they created agencies. They had to figure out a way to get out from under the Constitution. So they created these agencies that sit outside utopia so that they wouldn't be controlled by politics. Well, if these agencies aren't controlled by the contract, we have a contract. We have a Constitution, and we have a Bill of Rights on things thou shalt not do. These are privileges and immunities. Well, these things sit outside of that. They're called external establishments. FEMA is an external establishment. The Federal Reserve is an external establishment. Homeland Security, they've gotten so bold because nobody understands this what they call headless fourth branch of government. Now, that's FDR's. That's from the government. That's not my words. That's their stuff. They sit outside there, and what they do is like do with Homeland Security and what's going on with TSA under this terrorism bill of 2004. The President and Congress get together and they appoint two people, which are little dictators that sit outside the Constitution. Obama then gets to appoint three more, and then we are supposed to rely upon those five people to protect our civil liberties. That's right, in the terrorism bill of 2004. And we just flushed the toilet down. Now, if anybody in his right mind would never trust Obama and two of a chairman and a vice chairman elected by Congress and three lackeys from him, everything is all sitting on those five people to protect our civil liberties. They're not bound by the Constitution. It's just whatever they want to do. Mm-hmm. It's scary, and it's done by regulations. And the thing that was in this case when Jesse Ventura took on TSA. And I go get the documents, I go read, and what's amazing is that Holder is telling us in here what they're doing. That's what's scary. Okay,
when you say he's telling us what they're doing, what do you mean by that?
Okay, in the brief that came from the Department of Justice, this is Holder, they say in here, and I'm reading, this is on page 3,
They say an SOP, now SOP is a standard operating procedure, is an order of TSA. And they give us the site. It's under 49 USC 46110. You're going to see that one used a lot. 46 USC 46110. And here's the sentence that's the killer. Over the years, the courts have construed the term order expansively to include agency action that is final, meaning it is not merely a proposal, but it imposes some obligation, denies a right, or fixes some legal relationship. So in this brief, they're saying that they had a SOP, an order, these regulations, and they're putting them out, and it can impose an obligation, deny a right, or fix some legal relationship upon us. And farther down in this brief, it says, oh, by the way, under national security and for other reasons, we do not have to publish the regulations. We don't have to publish the SOP. You are not privileged to see what we're using against you to create obligations, deny rights, or create a legal obligation. That is a total dictatorship. The king has spoken. TSA says, oh, guess what? We can do anything we want, and we're not even going to allow you to see what we're relying on.
I wonder how many people would catch that. I wonder how many people would know that.
Not very many, because, and then what's farther down in this is...
Okay, we got a 3-minute break coming at us. We'll be right back. Yeah, get your pen and pencil handy and take notes, ladies and gentlemen. It's real important. This is the information that makes or breaks it all. We'll be back with Ralph Winterrowd, and we'll tell you about his radio show that you can listen to after this 3-minute break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Power Hour. It is 33 minutes after the hour. Let me remind you that we have the Power Malt. We encourage you to buy from the good guys. If we buy from each other and support each other, we can keep each other on the air and talking about the truth. But we need these radio shows, and we need this show, we need all of Genesis, we need Ralph's show, we need everybody's show that's telling the truth. Because, ladies and gentlemen, people just happen onto these shows, and they happen onto the truth, and they get a taste for it and don't want to go back. Let me remind you, we have Miracle 2 on special. All of the vaccine-related information is on special, the DVDs, the books, and the CDs. Carolyn's Natural Soap, Wisdom Natural Products, BioGreen Clean, and, of course, the Spice Special. Please take advantage of getting the Spice Special and the book that will be coming out, Clouded Titles. In January, we will have it, and that'll be the first place and the only place to get Clouded Titles at the Power Hour. Call us at 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829, or go to thepowermall.com. Ralph, I know you have a list that you send out documents to, that you provide a lot of information to. Why don't you tell the listeners how they can get involved in this and support you and the research that you are doing? Because I know you've done for thousands what we need to do for you now to support you in this.
Well, my email is Ralph, R-A-L-P-H, at JustBelly, J-U-S-B as in Bravo, E-L-L-I, Ralph at justbelly.com. And I have 3 lists that are free, the citizens of the United States of America. But I have 2. One is called a special list, and it's a $120 donation, postal money orders only. And I send out documents. I do what we're talking about today. I sent all this information out. I send out the documents because, believe no one, learn to read it yourself. I give you the research instead of just saying it's there. I give it to you. I have another one, an IRS package for a $250 donation for a year. And I give you the information to conclusively prove the IRS is a criminal organization. I give you the documents. You have to have Skype. And when you email me, I'll give you, my Skype is my last name, Winterrowd, Winterrowd. But I give people the information because, believe no one in this business, there's too many scam artists out there. It's just amazing when you see this, and it's just shocking. It's like what you did with the Gulf War Syndrome. When you were promoting that, I could not believe that I lived in a country that would do that to people that have families, veterans. It still shocks me. I just cannot believe it that we do that to them. And we're doing it yet, still.
And that it could have been done, that it could have happened. How did it happen? And all this information, if you go to justballet.com, Ralph at justballet.com. Now, do not write to him and say, how do I take care of my IRS case? Do not write to him and say, what do I do about my mortgage, about my foreclosure? That's not what he's all about. What he's all about is doing the research for certain people that he works with, but also sign up for his email list. That's you said $125 a year?
$120 for my special list, postal money order, and $250 for the other. And then I have a show on Republic Broadcasting every Sunday, 5 to 7 p.m., where I explain this in great detail, the different things. Like I'll be going over in great detail, again, what we're talking about today for 2 hours.
And I do recommend that you listen to that program, because if you want to get the down and dirty of this information, that is a program to study and have your pen and paper handy, because he gives a lot of information. But the email list, $120 donation a year is amazing, listeners. I mean, that is amazing. Please get on that list if you're interested in learning it yourself and reading it for yourself, because I got to tell you, Ralph, you kind of hand feed everybody with this. It's up to them to learn it, but you hand feed them all the information they need, and I do appreciate that very much. But okay, let's get back to the issue of the the manner in which they are getting this done. They're telling us basically how they're doing it, and let's see. I think you finished with USC 40. No, wait a second. 46. Yeah, USC 46. Where do we go from here? And by the way, all this information will be in the email blast. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, the thing is to get an overview of how the headless fourth branch works. Otherwise, we have no remedies. I want a remedy. It's great to know they're doing it to us, but what's the remedy? Now, we all are taught that Congress passes a law, they vote on it on both sides, and then the president signs it or he vetoes and they override the veto. We can go to the statute at large books and look and see and rely upon what's printed that supposedly has force and effect of law. It's a law. Agencies work different. They get around, and the way the agencies work, they have to, it's mandated that they publish the stuff in the Federal Register. That's the Federal Register Act of 1935. So we are being ruled by legal notice. They publish regulations in the Federal Register. The abstract, the summary of all of that Federal Register publications are in a set of books called the Code of Federal Regulations. In there will be regulations, like we're going to talk about in a minute, that's in this TSA bill, in this document here that I got off of Pacer. And in those regulations, they will show the Federal Register site, that they will give the volume and the page number and when they published it in the Federal Register. Now, in these Federal Register publications is the same thing. There are only two types that we're really concerned about. There are substantive or substantive regs. Those have the force and effect of law. So if you can think of it, in the land of Oz, they can come through the portal and get back into our constitutional republic only by creating what's called a substantive regs, and it's informal rulemaking. It's like Congress voting. But they have to follow a procedure, and it's 5 U.S.C. 553, and it's little b, little c, little d. Well, what the procedure is, it isn't like Congress raising their hand or, pulling a lever or something and getting a vote. They put out a proposed rule. They have to state in the Federal Register, we're going to abide by 553, little b, which is for substantive rules. What they do in here, I have never seen one yet. ATF doesn't do substantive rules. FEMA doesn't do them. IRS doesn't. They admit it. EPA doesn't. I've looked at a whole bunch of these. And so they do not, and Homeland Security, Congress just exempts them. No, you don't need to do that because the people are so ignorant, illiterate, and stupid, they'll never figure out what we're doing. So what they do is they're supposed to, in the Federal Register, put out a proposed rule. They're supposed to wait then and 30 days, and we're supposed to have notice, and then we're supposed to do a comment period. So we get around, we write in the comments, and then they're supposed to come back with a final rule. They're supposed to address all the comments. They're supposed to say in the Federal Register again, we are going to abide. We're making a force and effective law rule, a subsidy rule. They're supposed to say so. They don't do it. And then they have to, as soon as it comes out, they have to wait 30 days before it goes into effect. This is the way it works. Then, as soon as the final rule, so we got the second step here, the final rule is published. Then it goes before Congress. Congress has 60 days to up it or down it. Now, if you will remember, Senator Murkowski out of Alaska took on the EPA on carbon dioxide as a pollutant, and she told the EPA Congress is going to do that. The EPA gal over there said, no, Congress, go to heck, we are going to do it. In that 60 days, Murkowski could not raise enough votes. So now the EPA is out on their own, and the only way that Congress can ever get a control of them again, because once these regulations are written into concrete, I'm going to tell you the way is you can sue them because they didn't do the process, but people don't know it because they don't know how it works. They're written into concrete. Now you can see that in the Katrina thing, the Katrina hurricane. Everybody's bitching about what's going on. The head of FEMA is he's not doing this, he's not doing that, and on and on. Everybody they're pointing the fingers at everybody, but nothing happens. Congress can't control what FEMA is doing with their regulations, except by funding. So to give us that good and touchy feeling, what they do, and you see it over and over and over, Congress gets around, has a hearing, and they bring in the people that are doing the dastardly deeds, like the guy in FEMA. And we sit there on the side and we say, oh, boy, my senator, boy, he's already given it to him. Oh, wow, oh, ooh. But nothing happens because they can't reach them. Short of pressure to get them to resign or redoing the, quote, statutes to get new regulations, they don't have control over the regulations. They're out there all on their own. And that's what's so astounding when the EPA took on Senator Murkowski in Congress and told Congress, take a hike, I'm doing this. Murkowski said, no, Congress is, and she could garner enough votes, a simple majority, to overpower, and the EPA is, carbon dioxide is a pollutant, so we've got to quit breeding and kill all the trees. Mm-hmm. That's how crazy it is.
That's right. That's right.
This is the headless fourth branch of government. Now, in this particular brief that I got, in here, Mr. Holder, and I say that it's very difficult not to give him another name.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, it says here, this is TSA regulations dictate that the public must follow the screening procedures detailed in the SOP, the Standard Operating Procedure. And they give us two code sections. 49 CFR, they give us 1540.105, and 49 CFR 1540.107. Well, the average person is trying to make a living. They don't understand how this works.
That's right.
You go look up those two regulations. You go look them up, and you look at the Federal Register publications that they're relying on. Well, you go look in there, and here's what it said. The one for 1540.105, because they have to say that they're making a subsidy rule. They're going to abide by 553 little b. It's like a vote in Congress. They have to say that in the proposed rule, and then they have to give us time to comment, 30 days, and then they're supposed to come back, address our comments, and then wait 30 more days, and give it to Congress and wait 60 days. That's the way the whole thing's supposed to work. What do they say? Well, the first one here is in 67 FR 8353. It says, this rule is being adopted without prior notice and prior public comment. The regulatory policies and procedures of the Department of Transportation, they give a bunch of things here, however, provides the maximum extent possible with operating administrations for the DOT should provide an opportunity for public comment on regulations issued without prior notice. What the heck? They just bypassed it. And down in there farther it says, because of circumstances described herein warrant immediate action, the Undersecretary finds that notice and public comment under 5 U.S.C. 553, and you read this all the time, are impractical and contrary to the public interest. Say what? Impractical, they couldn't wait, and then it's contrary. You see that all the time. Contrary to the public interest, it's contrary that we should actually have a law that actually has what's called the force and effect of law and give us time in this world.
Read that again. I mean, it actually says this is contrary to
public interest. It says it's impractical and contrary to public interest. That's a quote right out of it.
Oh my gosh. And that's in where did you find that?
That is in 67 FR. 67's a volume. FR means Federal Register 8353. That's on page 8349. Now they said over here in this regulation, says TSR regulations dictate the public must follow the screening procedures detailed in the SOP, standing operating. Then you go look at the regulation. You look at the bottom at the Federal Register where they publish in the Federal Register what they're doing, and here's where the truth comes out. They say, we ain't doing this stinking thing. It's against public interest. Oh, wait, the heck? What?
Wow.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, now, if a person doesn't have access to the Federal Register, or where can they see these documents?
Okay, the new ones are available here. I'll tell you the new web page. They've got a new one out, and they go back to 1995, but that's good enough for most of this stuff. And the web page is www.gpo.gov/ and it's FDSYS/ Frank Delta Sam Yahoo Sam. So it's FDS. It's FD system is what they're talking about.
Okay, so it's gpo.gov/FDSYS.com?
That's correct. Uh-huh.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
And you can go in there and type in these regulations yourself and download them. And when you understand how the system works, it's shocking. And the only remedy is to sue that the regulations do not abide by the Federal Register Act and by the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946 that's codified in Title V, Chapters 5 through 9. And you sue that the statute they passed is unconstitutional because under the terrorism bill, I'm sorry, I do not knowingly want to put my state and federal constitutions in the closet and rely on an external establishment with 2 people appointed by and with the President and Congress and 3 lackeys appointed by the President. And it says right in the terrorism bill, which I sent to you, they're going to protect our civil liberties. We got 5 people that's going to protect our civil liberties? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. Shocking.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely it is. Where do we go from here? What do we do at this point?
Well, we have to hold our cap to get this knowledge and then go after the senators and representatives. Why are you passing bills that are totally unconstitutional? They're against your oath of office. You have no authority to hand over our civil liberties to 5 people that are on the wrong side of life that we can't even hold accountable.
And you think we're going to actually be able to ask them this because we can't even get, their attention to say what you just did was trash the Constitution with a new national defense directive that came out. I mean, it is literally in our face. They're doing it, and then they're saying, "See, here's what we're doing to you. Just wanted to let you know." I mean, well, what do we do at this point?
Well, you take them. One is to get it to court. One is to get the knowledge. If you don't know, we're playing checkers, and they're playing a 3D chess game.
No kidding.
If you do not understand this 4th branch, that's all that's out there today. There is no constitutional republic. There are no public officers in the state of Alaska. None of them have the oath of office as a public officer. There's not a one of them that has a civil commission appointed that they're supposed to. They don't have the bonding. It took me 2 months to finally to get the state of Alaska to admit that all the judges, we got a whole bunch of people up here that have no oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Well, isn't that in every state? I mean, you've proven it in Alaska, but isn't it in every state also?
Yeah, and all the federal judges, they all are employees. You can't be an employee and an officer of the United States. They are mutually exclusive, and all of the judges, even the Supreme Court, are employees.
We have not even scratched this surface yet, ladies and gentlemen. It's 50 after the hour. We're coming up on the final segment of the Power Hour today. Ralph Winterrowd, Just Belli, JUSBELLI.com. Sign up for the email blast to get the documents. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Power Hour, final segment today with Ralph Winterrowd. We're going to have him back in January for 2 hours because there's just too much information here for us to be able to bring it to you in a way that we can really get to the problem and the solution. But Ralph, as an example of what you are doing and the way you're fighting this, I'd like for you to talk about your fight with the IRS and what you have been accomplishing.
Well, what we've done is I highly recommend going to tax court. If you know what to do, you can have more fun than you're allowed to have.
I don't know that's the place I'd want to go, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, they shut down one. They said the court didn't have jurisdiction. Now they're back again. We've got a couple other ones. They got silent. A couple of other ones they're trying to walk around it, but they don't know how. Dealing with the case of the Vernons, and I can give that case number out. That's in the Ninth Circuit right now, and the case number is 11-35515, 11-35515. And what they did on that one, because they went after him to take a notice of federal tax lien and get their land, and when you hit them with the truth, it was so bad, and you're familiar with somewhat with the court process, that they said, we are not going to give you any documents under discovery. We will not allow you to depose anybody. We're not going to answer the interrogatories, and we're not going to answer the admissions.
Whoa.
So why do we have court? Let's just say, get the gun out, come over and shoot me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a case in Dillingham that I'm helping a friend
with. But, what's going to happen as a result of that? They just say, we're not going to play the game, and that's it?
Yeah, the judge just goes along with it, and the judge that we had is Judge Beislein, and the Vernons are they're the ones that are involved supposedly in this militia threatening a judge, which I don't know what that's about. I find that very difficult, is Beislein. And I tell you what, the most dangerous of the judges are the ignorant and the arrogant, narcissistic ones, and Beislein is one of those. He is ignorant, he's narcissistic, and he's arrogant. Dangerous, very dangerous fellow.
Well, this isn't giving people much hope, though. I mean, what happened?
Well, we are, because it's like we've got Dave Biden in the city of Dillingham. They took his house and all this stuff on the ordinance that doesn't exist, so he's got a quiet title action filed. And it's shut him up for 90 days right now. They don't know what to do. And we're not even close to being done with him, because he owns the land. We understand what it takes to own land. We don't own land. In Alaska, they come right out and say it, because they've got a clerk's deed they just did on my property. They come out and say they taxed my private interest in land owned by the government. Say what? That makes me a glorified squatter. I'm in a worse position in feudal law of England back in the old days. But I understand what it takes to own land. Mm-hmm. And anyway, we've shut them down. I mean, for 90 days, they just shut up. And the attorney that was on that, they went and fired her because she couldn't keep up with us. When she filed the answer, she wouldn't have stepped on it big time.
So what do they do in these cases then? Let's go back to the case where they said we're not going to provide you depositions, interrogatories, nothing.
That's in the Court of Appeals right now for the Ninth Circuit to look at, and the final reply brief is due January 6th or 9th of next year.
But the average person doesn't have the ability to go into tax court and do what you do, though.
Not in tax court. In my tax package, I give out the information so that you can get an understanding of how to conclusively prove the IRS is a criminal organization. That makes every judge, every court that's dealing with the IRS aiding and abetting in a crime.
But couldn't they just come out and say, yep, we're a criminal organization, just thought we'd let you know, yep, you're right, and then, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to have Ralph Winterrowd back in January. Go to justbelli.com. Thank you, Ralph, for joining us today on the Power Hour.
Okay, thank you, Joyce.
Oh,
we'll see you next year.
You bet. This wasn't enough time. Tomorrow, Roswell. Douglas Dietrich will be joining us. People are already ordering the CD from tomorrow's program. Can you believe it? We'll have Douglas Dietrich on tomorrow. 2 hours of what really happened at Roswell. Remember, he had a photographic memory and looked at the documents. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a blessed day. We love you at the Power Hour. God bless you all.